continuance of the last message. Man, Deuteronomy 2 is hitting. You know, when it keeps reading down and it talks about, they started traveling to the hill country, and God said, look, man, y'all been doing this long enough. You know, look how compassionate God is. Y'all, even when we mess up, even when we don't do what he say, he's so faithful. And he told them, he said, all right, now y'all been doing this long enough, turn it off. Like, let me give y'all some instructions. But they had to obey him, right? So they did, but he also gave them a command, because he's like, look, I ain't giving you nothing, but let me show you, you could go this way and walk in. They say in verse 4 and 5, well, the end of verse 4 says, they will be afraid of you, so be very careful. Even though where they were going, the people was going to be afraid of them, but God said, look, in verse 5, don't provoke them. Like, see, so just because you can do something, or you think you got, like, people going to be scared of you, that don't mean that God will give them over to you. He says, they will be afraid of you, so be very careful, but don't provoke them, for I will not give you any of their land. Oh, no. Just because you can and you think you big, bad, and mighty, and you can do something, and you got the power to do it, God's like, don't even think about it, okay? And he told them what to do. Like he said, you may purchase food for them, you may eat from them, you may buy water from them. The Lord your God has blessed you in all the works of your hands, and he watched over your journey. And what hit me was verse 7 at the end. It says, the Lord your God has been with you this past 40 years, and you have lacked nothing. Check this out. Even in the wilderness, even in a place where you feel like you're going around this mountain so many times, but even though you're going, where it seems like everything is crazy, nothing is working, it's dark, you're confused, you're frustrated, you're mad at God, you want to give up. He said they lack nothing. If God will have you not to lack nothing in the wilderness, how much more do you think they was going to experience in the promised land? So, could it be you're settling for that wilderness place because you're not lacking anything? It seems like God is with you. You're comfortable. But the enemy got you there in bondage because you won't walk into your promised land and possess it. Why? Because it seems too big, you don't seem worthy, self-sabotage, that imposter syndrome, what is it? Fear. What is it? That you're so comfortable in the wilderness, because God is with you. He said he'll never leave us or forsake us. He with us always. And it says they lack nothing. Okay? Let's be clear. They was living okay. You may be living okay. You maybe got some money in the bank. You may be driving a nice car, whatever you think success is. But you're settling for the wilderness. Because that can happen in the wilderness. You're settling for the wilderness instead of your promise. My God, if you're this good to me in the wilderness, baby, what you got for me in that promised land? Okay? Because I need that. Okay? Go to the promised land. Get out of that wilderness. Get out of that wilderness and possess the promised land. And I think what many people get stuck in is they're familiar with the wilderness. And the promised land, They don't know. It's unfamiliar. They don't know what they expect. They don't know what it's going to get. But listen, be encouraged. If he blessing you like that in the wilderness, baby, how much more is he going to bless you in the promised land? Get out of that wilderness and start listening to God's instructions, every last one of them. Even the ones you're scared of. Obey him the first time and walk on into that wilderness. Could it be that the people that possess the promised land actually trust God, actually obey God, actually do what he said the first time, so he's with them, so they don't have to go back to God or do it on their own and suffer the consequences because he ain't with them and they think he is, and they wondering why they going around that mountain over and over and over and over and over until God say, hey, look, come here. Do this right here. Do that right there. And you start to do it. But let me tell you something. Don't miss that promised land and you end up in the wilderness and you stay in places longer than you should, because now let's be clear, Moses didn't enter the promised land. Them people didn't enter the promised land. So you don't want, when God tell you to do something, especially when you about to enter in, and you don't do it, but you done been in that wilderness all that long time, and you about to possess it, but because you didn't obey him, he said, yeah, you ain't going, but your descendants might. The people connected to you might, because, hey, baby, Joshua and Caleb went. And they people. So be careful who you connected to. That's why God is strategic in how he aligns us with connections and people, because who you're connected to can be a good thing or a bad thing. In this case, it got them people into the promised land too, because Caleb and Joshua saw things different. Caleb and Joshua has God's perspective. Caleb and Joshua listen and trust what God told them in spite of what they saw. Okay? They didn't care how them people look. They didn't care what was going on. They said, God said, do not be discouraged and don't be afraid, baby. I have given this over to you. I am going to fight for you. And they believed it, honey. And guess what? It got them. The promised land. Get out of that wilderness and being disobedient. Because that's where you're going to keep wandering at. God still be with you. He'll still talk to you. He'll still give you instructions. But it won't be the promised land, baby.